this isn't just another courtroom case. This is the story of a woman in her final years who broke a rule for a reason so profound that it would remind everyone in that courtroom what truly matters when time runs out and love is all that remains. But before we dive into this incredible revelation, less than 1% of you watching are actually subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button because this story about a 92-year-old woman's final act of devotion deserves to reach everyone who needs to be reminded that some rules were meant to be broken when love demands it. It's a gentle Tuesday afternoon in late October, and Providence Municipal Court is handling its usual docket with the quiet efficiency that defines routine proceedings. The autumn light filtering through the courthouse windows carries that golden quality that makes everything feel more precious, more fleeting. At 2:45 p.m., the courtroom doors open slowly, and through them walks Maggie O'Connor, a 92-year-old woman whose appearance immediately captures everyone's heart. Maggie moves with the careful deliberation of advanced age, using a walker decorated with small photographs attached with tape. Her clothes are from another era, a carefully maintained dress that suggests she still dresses for important occasions with the dignity of her generation. Her white hair is perfectly styled, and despite her obvious frailty, she carries herself with the grace of someone who has lived through nearly a century of American history. But what strikes everyone most powerfully isn't Maggie's age or her dignified bearing. It's the expression in her eyes, a mixture of determination, sadness, and something that looks like she's on a mission she must complete no matter what it costs her. Maggie is here because 2 weeks ago, she received a citation for parking in a hospital loading zone for 3 hours. The fine is $45, not a large amount, but Maggie insisted on appearing in person despite offers from her family to handle it for her. She told her granddaughter that she needed to explain something to the judge in person. As Maggie approaches the defendant's stand with her walker, moving slowly but with absolute determination, Judge Caprio immediately senses that this case is profoundly different from the dozens of parking tickets he handles every week. Mrs. Margaret O'Connor, the court clerk announces gently, reading from the docket. Maggie stops at the defendant's stand, carefully positioning her walker, and when she speaks, her voice carries the tremor of age, but also the strength of someone who has something important to say. "Yes, Your Honor, that's me, Margaret Eleanor O'Connor. I'm 92 years old, and I'm here about my parking ticket." Judge Caprio looks up from his paperwork and immediately understands that he's not just dealing with a parking violation. He's looking at an elderly woman who has used precious energy to come to court for reasons that go far beyond $45. "Mrs. O'Connor," Judge Caprio begins with the gentle respect he always shows elderly defendants. "You're charged with parking in a hospital loading zone for 3 hours. The fine is $45. But before we discuss that, I need to ask, are you all right? Do you need to sit down? We can bring you a chair." Maggie shakes her head with elderly determination. "Thank you, Your Honor. But I'm fine standing with my walker. I need to tell you something, and I want to do it properly." Standing up like people should when they're addressing a judge, Judge Caprio sets down his paperwork, his characteristic gesture when he senses someone has something important they need to say. "Mrs. O'Connor, please tell me what happened. Why were you parked in the hospital loading zone for 3 hours? That's when Maggie reveals the truth that will transform this routine parking ticket into something that breaks every heart in the courtroom. Maggie takes a deep breath, her hands gripping her walker for support. "Your Honor, I was parked in that loading zone because I was visiting my husband, Thomas. We've been married for 71 years. He's in the hospital, and he's dying." The courtroom becomes absolutely silent. Even the court reporter stops typing to listen more carefully to a woman explaining why she broke a parking rule while her husband of 7 decades lies dying. "Your Honor, Thomas was diagnosed with end-stage heart failure 6 months ago. The doctors say he has days, maybe a week. I've been going to the hospital every single day, spending as much time with him as I can before he's gone." Judge Caprio's eyes begin to fill with tears as he realizes what he's hearing. "Mrs. O'Connor, why did you park in the loading zone instead of the regular parking area?" Maggie's voice becomes even more tremulous with emotion. "Your Honor, I'm 92 years old. I can't walk very far anymore. The regular parking is so far from the cardiac unit where Thomas is. By the time I walk from the parking garage, I'm exhausted, and I have less time to spend with him." She pauses, gathering strength to explain something that clearly breaks her heart. "Your Honor, Thomas and I have been together since 1954. We met at a church social when I was 21 and he was 23. We got married 6 months later, And we've never spent a night apart except when he served in Korea and when I had our babies. And guys, if this story isn't already breaking your heart, if you're not already understanding why a 92-year-old woman would risk a parking ticket to spend more time with her dying husband of 71 years, please hit that like button. What Maggie tells Judge Caprio next about her final days with Thomas will restore your faith in the power of lifelong love. Maggie continues, tears now streaming down her weathered face. Your Honor, every minute I have with Thomas is precious. When I park in that loading zone, even though I know it's against the rules, it saves me 15 minutes of walking, 15 more minutes to hold his hand, to tell him I love him, to make sure he's not alone. Judge Caprio has to turn away for a moment to compose himself. The weight of 71 years of marriage, compressed into these final days, these final minutes, stolen from parking regulations, is almost too much to bear. Mrs. O'Connor, does your husband know you're here today? Maggie shakes her head, crying openly now. No, Your Honor. I didn't tell him about the parking ticket because I didn't want him to worry about me. He's always taken care of me for 71 years. Even now, even dying, he asks if I'm okay, if I need anything. I couldn't tell him I got in trouble trying to spend more time with him. Mrs. O'Connor, why didn't you just pay the $45 fine and continue parking there? Maggie's hands shake on her walker as she explains. Your Honor, I was afraid that if I just paid the fine I'd get more tickets, and eventually they'd tow my car or ban me from the hospital. I came here to explain to you